7, we want to get started and away we go, right?
Let's
So,
do it.
hi, Carolina. Welcome to the Creative Collective. We're glad that you could come. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And for everybody, Carolina is out of Oregon, and we're gonna kind of get to know her, her business, what she's doing, how she started, all of that good stuff. So,
Mhm.
welcome to the show, Carolina.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
I guess Carolina, like in getting started, why don't you tell us about how it all started? Take us
Ha,
as far back as you would like to go,
wow.
um, and
Okay.
kind of bring us to just before finding Sub Two.
Okay. So the journey kind of started 2019, and I will say it was my amazing husband's idea, this whole real estate thing. It wasn't my idea. I say he drags me because he really did. He had to convince me to go to like this 3-day seminar for another mentorship that I will not at all endorse or say. But I'm sitting there for, 3 days and I'm like with my arms crossed. I'm like, why the heck am I in here? And as I'm listening, I'm like, towards the end of the 3 days, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not ready for retirement. We're not ready for our kids going to college. At some point, our parents are going to start coming to us. We don't have the money to help them out. Like, holy cow. What's the answer? Real estate. So my eyes were open. We jumped into this mentorship that cost way too much. And the thing it was good in a way because it taught me how to underwrite and structure a deal specifically for fix and flippers. So I comprehend the numbers. It was great for that. The only thing I didn't care for, it didn't really show me how to negotiate with a homeowner. So that part, and we're in a business of talking and negotiating. So that part made it a little hard for us. But for me, we dumped all this money into this mentorship. That was my fire. I'm like, I got to get that money back at least, right? So we started talking to on market at the time, which is funny because full circle now we're all going on market now, but wasn't able to get anything for about a year and a half. Finally got into mentorship number two, where they kind of showed us how to do a little bit of social media marketing, started getting some leads, and finally closed my very first deal about a year and a half into, yeah, in 2020, around the time COVID actually. So it taught me virtual wholesaling, which was really awesome. So my very first deal out in Washington, never stepped foot in that property. And thanks to my first mentorship, I already had a network of buyers. So that was the one good thing about that mentorship is they're really good about recruiting investors, not saying that they're all 100% active, but I have buyers nationwide and they have an amazing database that I can tap into. And hey, I'm also part of this community. Are you active? Are you buying? So it made life a little easier to like find buyers in markets when I need to.
Mm.
Oh,
So let's back up just a second because I'm always interested about this because I
yeah.
know that all of us have paid for mentorships, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. It's what we
So
do.
if you don't mind letting us know, how much had you put in before
Mm.
you got your first deal done?
Oh my gosh. At that point, I want to say mentorship number one was about 40,000. Ouch, right? So that was the fire. I'm like, I gotta get that money back. That's hard-earned
Yeah.
money that our family put into.
Yeah.
And then mentorship number two, if I remember correctly, was 5,500 or 6,500, something like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the husband was working lots of overtime to pay for those mentorships,
I,
right?
yes, yes, I know. Very stressful time. So yeah,
Yeah, and
I
and
wasn't
the,
stopping.
the, the reason why I bring that up, right, is because like I don't want people to feel bad when they come to the Sub Two community or they here or they're there. It's like, guys, we've all spent money on mentorships before
Big
we
time.
found the mentorship, right? And uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to
Yep.
tell people, yeah, if you think you're gonna stop putting money into mentorships, you're wrong, right? Because it's like in reinvesting in your business, you're gonna be putting yourself into rooms with people, right? So
Yep.
so yeah, I love that. All right, so you spent some money on mentorships. You get your first deal. Like, tell us about your first deal.
So my first deal, it was a gentleman that he was a truck driver. And like I said, it was during COVID time. So he was working crazy long hours. He had inherited this property from his family. The home was starting to basically fall apart. It was becoming too much for him. He was just ready to sell. He was ready to just start renting a property and not deal with having to maintain the home. So I was able to negotiate it down a little bit. He actually was pretty much, I guess, kind of like what we would call a slam dunk. Like he was ready to go. He was done. There wasn't like a lot of haggling that I had. It was an easy conversation, which is what you're looking for when you're talking to mud. I don't know where you moved to. Oh, there you are. Sorry, the screen moved on me. Um, and so, yeah, so it was great. Like he worked with me. I told him, that our partners were going to be coming to check out the property, and yeah, it was great. I just looked into our database. I found a buyer out there, and I actually was really transparent. I said, "Hey, this is my first deal. You gotta like kind of, hold my hand a little bit," which I imagine a lot of newer students maybe don't say that to their buyers, but I'm all about creating relationships. That particular buyer has bought 3 deals for me since then. So, I mean, I love doing long-term relationships with my buyers. And, I feel like when we're a little more honest and transparent, I mean, beautiful things can happen. So it was great.
Yeah, I love that, right? Because I think one of the things that catches people the most is the dishonesty, right? They get into these deals and then they're telling white lies, and before you know it, something doesn't go right, and then the person that you're buying it from, it's like, oh, well, they start piecing it all together, right?
Yes, the truth
And they're
comes
like,
out.
you're lying to me, right? So
Yes,
I love
yes,
the fact that you led with that honesty, because to me, that honesty builds rapport, right? Like
yes,
I'm
yes,
really big about about that, right? If
yes,
these people are grown-ups, right? You can tell them the honest truth about the situation. Okay,
absolutely.
so the first deal, I'm assuming it's a cash deal,
It
right?
is.
You
Yep.
go out, you find a buyer. So how long did it take you to get that deal finalized and done?
That one took about 45 days. The property did have a lien on it. It was a child support lien. So that took a little bit of time to get that cleared. The ex was being a little difficult. But thankfully it all worked out. And yeah, yeah, I made a $10,000 assignment. I'm like, whoa, this is possible. Like, holy cow.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So you
proof
make
of
your
concept.
first $10,000 assignment fee and you're like, oh, like, okay, we can do this. This is
Yep.
real, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's move forward now, right? Like, I love to back up and get those like
Oh, it's all
shiny
good.
little details for people, because I feel
Yeah,
like,
so good at that.
yeah, like other people can see like, oh, you're just like me, right?
Yeah.
No
Mm.
different. So you make that first deal, and now we're moving forward from there. And I'm assuming, okay, now you know this is possible, and you're all in.
Yep. Yep. So we're still grinding, we're still hustling. So at that point, we had shifted from because before, when I was not getting any deals, I was going on market, with realtors, getting literally nowhere. And now my eyes open to direct to seller. Like, oh my gosh, this conversation's so much easier. I don't have to go through an agent and try to convince, more or less convince the agent that I need to buy this property. So it was easier. I enjoyed it. It was more one-on-one instead of going through that middle person.
Okay. So is that where you find yourself most of the time? You're going like direct to seller.
Yeah, most of my deals have been direct to seller. Yes.
Okay. And so I guess if you're doing direct to seller deals, can you walk us through like what that means in terms of your business, right? Like, hey, I use this and I use that, and this is my process. And like, how do we walk through
Yeah.
deals? Or were you still just kind of doing it? I guess you moved past and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants still, or like you've secured a few deals past that point.
Yeah, so we did do, I would say, a handful of deals before we joined Sub 2. So we joined March of 21. And then that's when we started doing the full, like we learned the zero to hero. We learned, hey, we need to go get a VA, start doing cold calling, all of these things, right? And we did do that for about a good 6 months. And it wasn't for us. It really wasn't. Most of my deals again still came from, finding either a bird dog or a brand new investor that had a lead and just wasn't quite sure what to do with it. So having like someone there to do a little bit of like hand holding, so to speak, from start to finish. That's where most of my deals have come from. It's been, I actually really enjoy it because with the new investors, I can see just like kind of like the fear when they bring that deal, but when it closes, just that like boost of confidence that get like, oh my, that same feeling I had with that first deal. So it's been really rewarding, not only helping the homeowner, but then also helping the investor to get their deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, right? Like paying it forward, so to speak, is it's really what it's all about. And it almost like, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it like helps to like reinvent that first feeling that you got over and
Yes,
over. And so it like keeps you
it's
in like
it
in
gets me
the
pumped. Yes, it's really
correct.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I mean, with
Yeah.
that first deal, I was, even though my husband was here, I was the one, doing it. And I literally was praying to the big guy that I was getting this thing done. And I didn't want to drop the ball on this homeowner, which is probably why I was so, upfront with my buyer that, hey, help me out. I don't really know what the heck I'm doing here. This is my first one.
Mm,
So yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so okay. So let's talk about the processes now that you use. So, I mean, I know people that are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm assuming you would kind of call yourself in a wholesale business, right? You're wholesaling. We can talk about any properties that you're buying and holding, later. But if you're in a wholesale business, we hear, a lot of different ways to go about that. Everybody's got a process. Like Juan has a wholesaling business and he's got a process. So let's talk about that, right? I mean, are you pulling lists? Are you just going to the new investors?
Um, at one point we were pulling lists. I don't think we are very much anymore. Now we're hitting more of the on market, just like everybody else, and also the expired listings. I do host bi-weekly in-person call sessions because still giving back and wanting to help people, what is it, the lead a horse to water type of thing, like getting people to actually take action is so incredibly huge. A lot of us, we get into this industry and I feel like they just start consuming like crazy, but they never ever pick up the phone and actually do the action that's going to get you closer to that deal. So we do in call sessions in person with a group of, and I don't just keep it just sub to. I let whoever wants to come to our sessions, they're allowed to come, and we do our very best to help them. So if they're struggling on the phone call, we give them a script. Um, we do, like I said, to agents, because I feel like that's a little bit of an easier conversation. Those agents, truly want to sell their properties. So half the time they're a little easier to speak to versus maybe cold calling a homeowner that's been hammered quite a few times and isn't super,
Mm,
super
mm.
receptive. So,
Yeah, and that's funny that you bring that up, right? Because I think we just had Myron Briley on, and he's doing, I think some of the same thing. I don't know if I don't remember, and maybe the guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if he's doing expired or if he's looking
No,
for
they're on market doing low to no equity deals.
yep,
low to no equity deals.
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, interesting. So again, right, doing something kind of different from somebody else that like really works for you. But are you presenting? I mean, do you have a process when you get like, hey, cash first, creative next, seller finance? Like, how are you approaching how you go and talk
Always.
to the
It's always
agents?
cash first. And, I know that's crazy uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people, when they hear creative, like, let's just do them all creative. Well, it doesn't always pan out for creative. Sometimes cash works. So pitch it, use it. And then we do it for that psychology reason, right? Like cash, where this is what we can do for cash. We have to go get funding and, you justify it, right? It's not, because a lot of times when I'm working with the new investors, I do hear them. I actually jokingly this last weekend when we got together, one of them says, "Well, I offered the low ball cash offer," and I'm like, "Oh, you mean the fair cash offer is what you offered them? Because if you yourself are thinking it's low ball, like how you present it, like you have to be." okay justifying that price. Like there's a reason
Mhm.
we're down here. It's a risk for your fix and flipper, right? They don't know what's behind the walls. I mean, I've heard so many stories where we project that the renovation, let's say, is 100, ends up being like 130 or 140 or plus, right? I mean, that can kill your your profit in that particular deal. So
Mhm.
we have to understand why it is what it is for a cash offer when we're talking to these homeowners or agents, and then learn to just be okay. It is a justified cash offer. This is what we can do. If that doesn't work, then we can do this. We can come all the way up here, give you your full asking if you're willing to work with us on terms. So there's a little bit of psychology there when we present it.
Yeah, so okay, you make the cash offer. They don't go for the cash offer. It's too low, right? And now we're into creative. So walk me through your process there, right? Because I think that everyone has a different approach when talking to agents, and I know that Pace loves to rip agents. I'm an agent here in Texas, right? And I will be the first one to tell you, these guys hear me say it all the time. Agents drive me crazy, right?
Yeah.
But there are some, right? And I think this is getting better, right? As the time goes on with the problems in the market, they're kind of putting more tools into their tool belt, and they're
Yes.
realizing, hey, to sell these deals, we're going to have to get creative about this. So they're opening up their horizons. They are willing to listen to this. How do you make that explanation?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I try to do my very best, and it all depends on that person I'm talking to on the other line. Like, whatever their personality is, sometimes I can get them to open up to me, and sometimes they're very like rough and gruff and to the point, I don't want to talk to you anymore. It just depends on who you're talking to, but you're doing your best to mirror match and, you know, partner up with them, their tone and all that stuff. So if they are willing to hear me out a little bit, I will in the conversation ask them point blank, have you done anything creative before? Have you heard of anything like subject to? And a lot of times I hear no, I've never done anything like that. Well, cool. Well, let me talk to you about it a little bit. So that now that I know who I'm talking to, I know what kind of, you know, how deep of a conversation I need to go. Do I need to, for lack of a better word, dummy it down, make it elementary school level, bite-sized pieces for them to understand what I'm proposing? Or is it someone that's done creative and they absolutely know it? So cool, I can have more of a higher caliber conversation as to what I'm proposing.
Mm. So, as you explain this deal, hey, this is what Sub 2 is. We get the seller on board. What is your system for presenting that offer? Because, and this is why I ask, right? Here in the state of Texas, real estate agents only want to see it on a TREC contract,
Hmm.
right? If it is not a TREC contract, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these real estate agents in Texas, man, they get really nervous, right? And it's, for lack of better, I've literally heard a broker here in Texas say, why would you put it on anything other than a TREC contract? It's the best contract ever written, right? So this is the way that agents here in Texas think about this TREC contract. But I think it's because they're used to seeing it, right? And we know that, hey, I can bring a purchase contract, but if you've got maybe a standardized contract, here, do you have like an automatic LOI that you send over? Do you fill out a state specific contract? Like, how are you approaching that?
Yeah, yeah. So I am not an agent. So I make that known when I talk to them that I'm self-represented. And then yes, we do a letter of intent. We email it and then I keep track of it. Because I do feel unfortunately that some of the agents, maybe because of lack of education or they don't want to look less than in front of their clients, aren't presenting these offers. And because it isn't on the state form, like I really don't know if they truly had that conversation. So once I get a response from the agent, a lot of times we hear no's more often than yes. It's just the business we're in. But when I get that no, I will put it into a database where I keep an eye on it. Once that listing expires and it doesn't sell, I'll go back to that homeowner and I will talk to them. And I kid you not, I have gone approached the homeowners directly, presented creative, and they're like, "This is wonderful. This answers all of my questions. why have I never heard of it before? So
Mm,
some of these agents truly are not presenting it.
mhm.
For whatever reason, they're missing out. They're not getting paid. That's on them. But now I can do a better deal with the homeowner directly.
Yeah, I love that attitude about it, right? Because I hear a lot of people who get angry at the agents, right? And I don't. I mean, it's frustrating,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah,
I don't get angry because it's kind of like your mindset. Well, if you're throwing that money away, that's not my fault, right?
yeah.
So
You just
when do
saved me
you decide?
2.5%. Thank you.
Yeah. So when do you decide, like, hey, I'm gonna circumvent the agent and go direct to the buyer? I mean, do you do that?
I don't. I know some people do. I wanna keep my reputation intact. Like
Mm,
it's a small industry, right? Like even though there's a ton of us out there, I don't want to be that person. So to each their own, whatever works for your business. But for me, I just
sure.
wait for the listing to expire. Once it does, then I will circle back around and talk to the homeowner directly. But I do my best to work with the agent. If they don't want to work with me, okay, no skin off my back. You know what I mean? Like we'll find somebody else to
Mm.
work with that does want to work with us.
Yeah, and I think probably one of the things that people won't catch in there is that confidence where you say, I'll just let the listing expire and then I'll come back, right? It's like
Yep.
you already know in your mind that you've got this difficult agent to work with, and more than likely that listing will either expire, withdraw, or terminate, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you're gonna get it regardless. Yeah. So yeah, so interesting. So you're I'm assuming, are you pulling lists off the MLS of expired listings and then you're going to the agent, or are you just going right through the MLS?
I am not. Actually, my title company is amazing and they'll send me a list every single week of the expired listings.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
For
That's
free.
creative. That's very creative.
Yeah. Create relationships.
Very,
It's
very
wonderful.
creative. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So now you're here, you're presenting this offer. So let's walk through, like, you get a yes from the agent. So let's walk through what that looks like. Or yes, you get a maybe a yes from the buyer. Do you handle those in separate fashions, or are they pretty much the same for you?
It's pretty much the same. I mean, with the agent, love it because now I have someone that is willing to do creative with us, and I will keep in contact with this agent. Like we did one, hey, let's do another in the future. So every couple
Mm,
months, I'll check in with that agent and see what's going on. I probably should do it a little more often, but I do it every couple months. Just to keep my name present in the front of their mind, like, hey, do you have anything else that might work? Hey, we closed this deal together, everything's going great. With that particular agent, we also make sure that we get in touch with the homeowner because when it's creative, it's going to be a longer relationship, right? It's not going to get
mm,
closed and I'm done whenever. So I keep in touch with the homeowners. Um, they're wonderful. So it's been a really good process for us. I've enjoyed it. I do allow, so if it's an agent that has never done anything creative and they're ready to move forward, I present it this way, like, let's get on a three-way call with your homeowner, because I want to be able to answer. First, I want to, be able to get a hold of your homeowner, like I said, we're going to have that longer relationship together, but I also want to be able to answer any questions that they might have. And because
mm.
you, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, haven't done a deal just yet, I don't want you to look bad. I'm going to make you look good. I'm not going to say anything bad. Like I reassure them that way because nobody wants to look bad, right? Like they all want to know,
Sure.
look like they know what they're doing. And so I just opened the door for that. And that's made it a lot easier to have those three-way calls with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's like a continual process of building rapport.
Hmm.
And to clarify, that's where I was headed with that is, I was kind of alluding to what, are you using a CRM to keep contact throughout this process, right? Because it's not like, oh, I got a C2 or I've got a sub two and then I put it in the title. I mean, there are continued things throughout this process. Like me and one just did a deal together, and man, it was quite the adventure. And it's
Yeah,
still, we're still working on it, right? So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. So are you using like a way that you keep up with those contacts? Some people use Excel, some people use CRMs.
Yeah, so we have REI Reply. I mean, I feel like we're very basic. I'm sure there's a lot of really awesome tools out there, but we use REI Reply. I do love me a good spreadsheet. I love my calendar. I will set reminders in there as well. Just whatever you can do to stay on top of everything. I think everyone just kind of has their own system,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going there, because like I have heard all colors of the rainbow, right? When it comes to a system in terms of how
Yeah.
they, number one, source deals, get into deals, and then how do you keep up with deals, and then how do you keep up with the agents after those deals, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a continued relationship with those folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's, man,
Mhm.
it's amazing, right? So like it's funny, like you're doing so much with a very kind of basic layout, right? And these
Yeah.
people that tell me, "Oh, you got to have all these fancy tools and all that." No, not really. No,
Nope.
you don't.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
when I did the handful of deals before joining Subto, it was Google Sheets and our Google phone. That was it. I don't know. You don't need to go spend hundreds of dollars. I mean, you got Zillow for free to help comp, right? You don't need to go spend all this money. What you need to do is get on the phone and start talking to people and just
Mm.
do what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how many deals did you do before you actually found the Sub Two
The sub
community?
two, I want to say I only did like 4 or 5. I didn't do that many. And I actually, in my mind, I go one more deal and I'm signing up for sub two. So it was almost like a reward. Like when I get that next deal, that assignment is going to go pay for sub two. So it was my treat.
Well, if you think about it, you say only 4 or 5, but guys, keep in mind, five deals would restitute probably about an average of $50,000. So you've basically paid yourself back for the mentorships that you did. So
Yep.
now you can go reinvest over into Sub Two.
Yep.
So okay, you find Sub Two. Let's talk about that. Like, what was
Oh my
that like?
gosh. It was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. My gosh, it was so much, and it still is. I feel like it's such a balance because, we talk about that FOMO. There's so much, so much. But I think the
Mhm.
balance for us at the beginning was we were going to all of the Zooms. We didn't want to miss anything. And I remember my husband and I at one point, remember we have 3 kids at home too. So they're like, why is pace always in the background? And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, we got to learn all this stuff.
Mhm.
But I remember one time we were doing, Sean Sinclair was doing a probate series, right? And I can't remember if it was like part 2 or 3 of it. And we were maybe hour 5 or 6. And a light bulb finally turned on, like, why are we listening to this when we're not even talking to probates? Like, so that moment of only go to the things that pertain to your business right now, right?
Mhm.
Or if it is something that you plan on venturing off to, then of course start learning that. But why are we listening to this if we're not, dealing with it at this moment in time? So it was huge. It really helped because at that point I remember my brain was just like melting with an overload of all of this information, which is beautiful. Like you want to have all that information, but you also want to make time to go do the business because learning it is great, but there's got to be a balance. You got to learn, a little bit each day and then go out there and implement what you've learned.
So this is a really good segue, right? Because to me, that's a mindset shift,
It is
right?
huge.
People get in and they're like, I gotta get it all. I've gotta take it all in. I did the same thing. I mean, I was like, man, I've got to take in all of this information. And then I had this like mindset shift. And so that segues me over to Lance because that's a mindset's his thing. So
Yeah,
I want
love
Lance
it.
to come in and talk to you a little bit about that, right? That whole mindset shift.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah, Carolina, I've really enjoyed your story so far and hearing how you've taken action and trying different things and kind of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, right? That's
Yep,
kind of
pretty much. Yep.
that's what we do.
Yes, for sure.
um, yeah, so I do love talking about mindset because so many newbies come in and they don't feel like they have any value to add, and so constantly love talking to people about that and showing them the value that they have, trying to get them to see the value that they have. What do you what do you say to newbies like who are looking to get in and start
Yeah.
doing wholesaling, for example, what do they have to do for going from a 9 to 5 mentality to learning to get the grit and to
Gosh.
get that, build that character, right? To be able to
Yeah.
get all the no's. Like what can you tell us about
Yeah.
that? Can you give us some
Oh my
advice about
gosh.
that?
I think that grit that you talk about, I feel like it's kind of like ingrained in us as children. I mean, I don't know. The more I talk to entrepreneurs and listen to their story, we have not all had like Hallmark, like picture perfect homes. We've had very hardworking parents that struggled, maybe immigrants like myself. So work ethic has just been it's normal. It's just what we do. We grind, we hustle, we don't complain, we just get it done, right? So I think you have to have that. No one can give that to you. You need to have that fire. You need to motivate yourself. And it's not even motivation, it's you just do it, even though you don't want to do it, you just do it. Period. Like it has to get done. It's on my list. I am busting that out. So I don't know. When I talk to newer investors, when they say they don't have value, oh my gosh, we're all God's children. We all have a special skill or talent that we are blessed with. It's just finding it, embracing it, and being okay to show it to the world. Because sometimes, like for me, even though I'm talking your ear off, I'm a little bit of an introvert. So for me, being in front of a camera or being in front of a crowd is still not super comfortable, but I do it because I know it's going to propel my business. It's going to make me get out there, market myself, show the world what I'm capable of. And plus, love y'all, but I'm a minority as well. Not only am I Hispanic, but I'm a female in this super dominated industry of dudes. So like I want to represent, I want to show women that hey, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or not. Like we can do the business.
Yeah, I love that. That is so good. So good. We didn't really get to talk about, your background. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Santiago, Chile, in South America, and I came here when I was almost 4. So this is home for me. I do speak Spanish, but English is still my dominant language. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's very cool. We were talking a little bit before the show about, some of the stuff about being bilingual and how many advantages I think it has, and sharing that right with others.
Yeah.
My son was actually just asking me about to go into school, to what language he should learn. And yeah,
Amazing.
I said Spanish, of course.
Yeah.
That's the number one. Gonna be paid. You're gonna get paid to learn Spanish, and you're gonna be able to communicate with more people than any other
100%.
language.
Yep.
But yeah, that's great. I love it. So you're in Oregon. You guys are doing all these wholesale deals. What do you have a goal? Do you guys set goals? What's your target? Like, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to get your husband out of his job at some point?
You pinned it right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk
Yes,
about
he's
some of your goals with us and let us
yeah.
know kind of where you're heading.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, he works his 9 to 5. He's a software engineer, and I am so blessed that he's been, our sole breadwinner for those moments when I don't have a deal that closes. But yeah, my goal is to get him out of his job so he can do the business with me full time. And right now, we currently own 24 doors. It sounds sexier than it is because it's with partners and we're not, cash flowing at that level just yet, but hoping to grow that a little bit more. I love wholesaling, and then using the proceeds to invest and do a little bit of private money lending, and then also to buy more properties for our portfolio.
I love that. So you are partnering. So you're doing what Pace has taught you to do, right? You're doing
Mhm.
JV deals. You're doing partnerships. Are you? Did you guys kind of set a timeline on his retirement, or
I
does he?
know.
Does he? And also, I wanted to know if does he help you in the business? Is he involved at all with you in the business?
He is, but not at the level that I feel is needed, right? Like it's so hard when you're working a 9 to 5 and trying to do the business. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not doable, but it's just he's limited on time. So I am very fortunate I'm able to do it full time. He helps when he can. That would be the answer to that question. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. He's supportive. Like supportive,
Yeah.
having a
Oh, he's
supportive.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Um, That's awesome. So do you guys plan on, what's your main play here? Like, are you just going to keep wholesaling? You going to pick up, do you have any plans on scaling up at some point, like in a multifamily or storage
Yes.
units or anything else like that in the
Yeah, I
future?
know. I'd love to do stuff like that at some point as well. Right now, I'm pivoting. So actually, next week I'm going to be starting on a team, and I'm actually going to help spearhead their dispo department. So I'm really excited for that new opportunity that's coming.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, let's talk up a little bit about how did you end up becoming the regional Oregon leader? How did that all come about? And I'm sure you've had conversations with Pace, and you probably, talk to him, I'm sure, on a somewhat regular basis. But how does one become a regional leader in their state?
Wow. I saw a need for it. So going back to March 2021, our Subto community, I feel like we only had maybe like 3,000. I mean, it really wasn't anywhere near to what the 11,000 that we have right now.
Mhm.
There was uh, under 10 of us here, and I didn't see that community of, collaboration and getting together. And, Zoom is great, but like there's something to be said about in-person meetups, right? So I just took it upon myself. Hey, guy, I didn't see anybody else doing it. So being an action taker, I'm like, hey, let's meet at this restaurant. And we just started doing it every single month, different locations, and our community has grown. Now the PMW has about 200 students now, which is awesome. And I get to co-lead with Kenny Courts and Keto. So it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. It's given me it's a challenging role because again, I do not like the spotlight, but I think me having um I guess almost like not wanting to be the leader, I guess, not wanting to be in the spotlight kind of gives me more of a connection to the students because I get it. I totally bond with the ones that are like a little more shy and don't really, I'm like, but you can do it. If I did it, I know you can do it. Like this is, and I always try to share my story with them to try to encourage them to do more because, how badly do you want this, right? Like you can make
Mm.
all the excuses in the world why not to do it, but focus on why you should do it. Like that should be your what you're focused on to make it all happen.
Yeah, because you can find every reason in the world why not, and how to pick something apart, and how it
Hmm.
failed, and how this person failed, that
Yep.
person doesn't. None of that matters. What are you gonna do, right? I
Yeah.
tell people that all the time. What are you gonna do?
Yes.
People pick apart deals. I do a lot of gap lending and stuff like that. I'm in that as a connector,
Hmm.
and those naysayers come in every now and then. They'll like, oh yeah, I'd love to check out one of your deals. I'll get them on it, and they just tear it apart. Every little thing,
Oh,
possible, And I'm just like, or wrap deals with, with one of my partners, and I'm just like, man, you don't have to do this.
yeah.
If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like I've
Yep.
explained to you 3 times already now. What? But but yeah, it is, it's that self-limiting belief, and a lot of it is it's just people don't know. They've been W-2 wage earners their whole life, and they don't have that mindset. It's that shift. Stupid thing drives me nuts. But yeah, at some point you have the shift, right? So I love, like Damon said, getting on newbie Zooms one-on-ones, especially, is just letting people know how much value they have to add. And I'm excited to do that YouTube video, actually, that they're doing in Project Forward. I'm going to make that, that video, just kind of sharing what my value is and what you can do with me, and then having them. Right? Did you see that? Did you hear about all that? The Project
Hmm.
Forward stuff, and
Yeah.
then how they can add value to you. It's going to save a ton of time.
That's gonna be
You
amazing.
know,
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, you're going into this kind of a new role, right? So are you stepping kind of down, or are you kind of staying at the leader?
I'm still
Or
staying. It's been
okay, cool.
I've embraced it. I think over time it's the what is it, the uncomfortable became comfortable. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've loved helping, the newer students kind of find their way and hope to do more deals with them in the future. So yeah, that's always my
Yeah.
goal.
So
Yeah.
did someone say, "Hey, Carolyn, Carolina, I'm sorry. Do you
Okay.
want to be the leader?" Or did you just say, "Hey, nobody's like doing this. I can help out." Or how did that
Yeah,
work?
the latter. The latter is basically what
Okay.
happened. I saw a need, I filled it, and it
Yeah.
just kind of like, Okay, you're the leader. So,
That's
but it's
cool.
been good. I've really, like I said, I've enjoyed it. I think it's the mama bear in me that just kind of comes out. I love just seeing, because it is a family, you know what I mean? Even though it's gotten really big, it's become a second family for us, and it's
Mhm.
been amazing. I enjoy hosting the meetups. I enjoy meeting the new students and just kind of seeing where I can add value to them and help them as they navigate the waters. And I do not at all claim to know everything, because I think we're forever students in this arena, but
Yep.
it's just good to know you have someone that you can reach out to when you're having a little bit of a moment, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. Did you guys, Juan, did you
Yeah,
have any questions, or yeah, do you want to hop on here?
it's amazing, man. I was just gonna jump in, and you just like knew it. We flow so well together. Anyways,
That's right.
so I like to get into the tactical, right? Especially specifically with regards to wholesaling. As Damon mentioned, I do have a wholesaling business. I've been doing it since 2019 on a part-time basis, and then really got into full-time in 2022, January. And so I said, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to, just go all the way, right?
Amazing.
So definitely talk about a leap of faith. And it's definitely been a challenge, right? You got your peaks and your valleys, and you just got to be able to sustain the valleys to get back up to that peak. And so the goal is obviously consistency and trying to continue to have that consistency in deals. Do you find that is an easy thing for you to keep consistency flowing? And if not, what are you doing to adjust to that inconsistency?
The inconsistency as far
Deal,
as the
deal
deals not
flows.
the
Yes.
deal flow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just like I've gotten to the point that I get it. Like we bob and weave in this industry. It just, I kind of call it like the roller coaster ride, like you said. And I love that you were honest about it, because so many people are not honest about it. There are good months and there are bad months, and it's just the nature of the beast. The market shifts. You have to change your marketing technique, whatever the case may be, but it's just part of the nature of the beast. And I think anyone that's in this industry that is active and honest will tell you the same thing. It is what it is, and you just bob and weave. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you what are you doing specifically to that, or for that? Are you making more dials? Are you trying to market, differently? What are you doing to combat that inconsistency, if at all possible?
Yeah, I mean, I just try to have as many conversations, whether it's with newbie, bird dogs, agents, like as many people out there, because they are my eyes looking for deals. And then my goal is to now get them when they're warm leads, and now I can help you to get them to the close table. So as long as I keep reaching out and having those conversations, I'm doing my part, because that's essentially my marketing, is getting myself out there to get these people to team up with me and work together.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me cut in just 1 second. Do you keep KPIs at all, Carolina, on like the amount of calls that you're making? And
You're gonna get me with that. No, and my husband gives me a lot of grief about that. So I really should. That's a big no-no on my part. We used to, when we were paying for the VA and having all the cold calling, we used to, but not so much anymore. Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I always ask that, right? Because some people do, and some people live by it, and
hmm
others don't. And I don't know. Like sometimes I wonder, and maybe one you can add to that, if it's more of an accountability thing for yourself. Where, oh, I know I need to make 450 phone calls. I better get on top of it, right?
Yeah, it really comes down to that. It comes down to the two things: accountability and discipline. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But here's the thing too. A lot of times, it really depends on what type of systems you have in place that can help you with those KPIs. Because the thing is, you talk yourself out of working on KPIs, because you look at that as time spent away from making money, right? So typically, what you do is you say, okay, well, if I'm spending, an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours on reporting each and every day and tracking what I'm doing, then that's an hour, 2 or 3 that I'm losing on talking to people. And so I think that's a way that we kind of justify it to ourselves sometimes. But the ones that are really believers in those KPIs are going to be like, well, that's just the game, right? You have to play it accordingly. And so, like to me, I'm the same way. It's like I'm trying to track my KPIs, and then it's like, okay, do I got other things that are making money, that are bringing money to the table versus the KPI. And okay, well then I got to focus my time and my effort on money making activities. So is that something that you would relate to?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's moments where I tried really hard to track those KPIs, and then all of a sudden I'm getting super busy and I have these deals I have to, baby and nurture to get them to the close table. I'm like, I don't have time to keep tally of how many conversations I just had. So
Right.
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you do the best you can, right? Like you got to give yourself a little grace. So
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this, Carolina, are you actually doing every single phase of the wholesaling? Are you doing acquisitions? Are you doing the TC work and dispo?
I hate to say it, but yes, I was wearing way too many hats, which is why I made the decision to join a team starting next week, which is I'm actually kind of like relieved in a way because it was a lot. I mean, being a solo entrepreneur, love my husband, bless his heart, but realistically, it was all falling on my shoulders, and it was just becoming too much. So I do have my VA, and she does help, but it wasn't producing to the level that I wanted to. So yeah,
Right. And this VA that you had, what was she doing specifically?
she helps to find buyers in the markets for me when I have deals, and then she was helping with follow-up calls as well. So like a lead
Oh,
manager. Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Wow. So you had a hybrid type of VA.
yeah. I trained her. She's been amazing. She's been with me for about 2 years, and we've done a lot of call calibration. She's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, because most of the time you hear, you get one VA resource for specifically a role, right? And you don't kind of cross use them across your platform. So it's very interesting that you were using them in that capacity and that they're okay with it.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. Yep.
Great. And so this resource, is it out of the Philippines? Is it out of the US, or where are
The
they at?
Philippines. The
The
Philippines.
Philippines. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's great. And so obviously you train this. They're an individual, not a company.
Individual. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, that's great. So have you actually considered, offloading some of the TC work to, these folks that are out there now, just, plugging away and are really good at it?
I have not, but now that you say that, maybe I think like honestly for cash deals, I've done my own paperwork for that. However, if it's a creative deal, I will not touch that sucker. I will absolutely outsource that because it's a lot more cumbersome. So yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Got you. Okay. And so I see on here, I see your background, it says nationwide dispo major cities. Is that with joining this team that you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. And so are you going to be partnering, are you still going to be able to be partnering with, let's say, other sub two students that need to have, a deal dispo in whatever city?
Yes, yeah. I made it very clear that still the regional leader, I still need to be available for that. And then I still need to, my own family and kids, like time to time they need me. So yeah, a little bit of flexibilities, but as long as we got that going, then we should be just fine. Yeah.
Hey
That's
We're in
guys,
awesome.
I just
the
wanted
dating
to,
phase.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just
Oh, you're
wanted to
fine.
hop in and remind everyone that Carolina has a hard stop in about 14 minutes. So we probably should see if anyone has any questions at this time for her.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, guys, and obviously we didn't want to dominate from everybody getting asked questions. So, if there's anybody in the room that has questions for Carolina, we're going to go ahead and open that up now. So, guys, just raise your hand if you have questions. If not, we'll just keep talking to her. But yeah, if you have questions, she's here to answer. So, feel free. But like I said, if nobody has questions, we'll just keep on going.
And I got
All
another
right.
question. Then,
That's
if
right.
nobody else has questions, I got another
I
one.
love it.
Yeah, it's not even more. It's not a question. It's more of an actual. What would you give as sort of like guidance or sort of advice to some of these folks that are on here that maybe are just getting their feet wet with wholesaling or even getting started with this process? What would you say has been your biggest battle and your biggest win going through this journey?
The biggest battle, I think it's I'm a recovering people pleaser. is what I say. I just like to make everybody happy. And I think sometimes, you do your best and just, again, going back to giving yourself grace, we can't make everybody happy. We are looking for such a tiny, what is it, like 5% of the population out there. Those are our clients, right? So just keeping in mind that you're going to have a thick skin, right? I mean, as a people pleaser, you want to make everybody happy and you're not going to be able to. Sometimes you just make a friend on the other line. Sometimes you just give some advice. They're not always going to be your deal. Just because they're selling doesn't mean that they're your customer. So just keep that in mind. And I feel like early on, I kind of made, because I was getting frustrated, like we get so many no's until we finally get that yes, right? And so I feel like in my mind, what I did is I created kind of like, almost like a game board, right? So every time I get a no, my little character moves one step closer to that prize money, or the, you
Oh,
pass
that's
go
good.
and get the 200, right? So just keep it like, sweet, I'm one step closer. Just keep moving that piece. Each time I'm getting a no, sweet, get to the truth fast. Don't waste a lot of time on someone that's a tire kicker, because you want to have as many conversations as you can that day, that week, and just keep going, just keep moving forward. Like, don't let it discourage you. One week could really, really suck, but next week you might get a couple deals under contract. Just keep going.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think that's something that's very, in what we're doing, that is so truthful about having thick skin. I heard it said one time, we need to have thick skin with a soft heart.
Yes.
And if we do that, when we talk to sellers, I think it'll help us so much to deal with them, right? Because just having thick skin, but still having a soft heart for people, I think helps you to just
It's a
overcome a
balance.
lot of these. Yeah.
Big
Wow.
time.
So good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was amazing. Anyone else? Anybody have any questions for Carolina?
I've got one. You said that, one of your reasons for doing what you're doing is to eventually retire your husband. We all have our whys. I know that is definitely one of them, but do you have any other whys that you're working towards? Any sort of charities that you
Yes.
are
That's
wanting to
such a
work
good
with,
question.
or anything like that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I haven't really talked about it on a podcast before, but I will try to keep it. I'll try not to get too girly here. So after going to Clever Summit, and they talked about the money purpose, right? Like that hit like to the core of my soul. I remember, and I'm a believer, to each their own, but I'm a believer. I was on the airplane ride, and I'm not a super emotional, like, girly girl, but when I was on the plane ride, I swear I just got hit like by the Holy Spirit or something. Like, I started bawling on the plane. My husband's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, I go, "Honey, oh my gosh, I think I know what our purpose is for our business." And he's like, "What's going on?" So, going back to being an immigrant, we had humble beginnings. I know what it feels like to be hungry. So before doing real estate, I actually was a pastry chef. I went to school for that. I've always loved cooking. There was something calming and beautiful about it. It's like we are all connected with food, right? So I've always loved feeding people. And so I have seen students, be hungry because they don't have, they don't want to ripple the waters. They don't want to, alarm anybody that they don't have their papers. And I find that so just appalling in this country, being as incredibly rich. Nobody should be hungry. No, none of these little children should be hungry. So I want to do a charity for that. Just feed all the children. I don't care if you have your papers. I don't care if you have your green card. No, they should not be hungry, period. No questions. So that is one of the charities that I'm really, really, working to build. The other one is, and I won't go into too much detail because like I said, this is still kind of near and dear. I haven't like broadcasted it everywhere, so new to you. But I grew up in a home where one of my family members had a mental illness. So it was, I'm a kid of the 80s. Like, we didn't talk about these things. It was very frowned upon. Just a lot of fear mindset that if, someone finds out, they're gonna take you from our home. You're gonna be put some, like, it was just all these things. So living like that was very isolating, very kind of scary, right, as a little kid. So I want to have some sort of support for mental health. I think that's really important, and I love that as the years go by, people talk about it more. It's a lot more common. The more I talk about it too, like, it is amazing how many people, even within our Subto community, that have husbands, wives, or children that are dealing, coping with mental health issues, and it's a real serious problem in our country. And so, I would love to have a charity where, or some sort of support where people can go free of charge, and get support they need.
Awesome, amazing. I love all those. Yeah, it's so important to hold those things as we work towards our goals, personally in our families, but also to be able to give back and work with our communities that that are really close to us, and I love hearing people's whys so much, because just strengthens mine as well. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks like we have one question. We probably have time for maybe one question. Heath. Go ahead, Heath. Come on up.
Hey, good evening. Heath Medley. I'm out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm actually a native-born Texan, and had an opportunity to talk to Lance, who's also down there in the Republic. But yeah, so a quick question. I'm relatively new to the Gator tribe, and looking at generating deals for new people to the community. What advice would you give to those newer students who are not only looking to do deals outside the community, but to actually bring value? Because a lot of times, it's like, we don't know what we don't know. I spent 15 years in the mortgage business, and I'm an infant when it comes to the Subto and creative stuff. And so what would be your advice to new people to the community that want to come in and bring value? Because that's a question that, since we're doing these interviews and conversations, I'm kind of running across a lot. What can you do for me? That's what I'm.
So you just said you have a lot of experience in the mortgage world. I guarantee you know more about mortgages than I do. Like, you have a value right there. And I'm sure you have connections. I'm sure you have, gosh, I'm sure you could tap into like a penalty box buyer list somewhere. How many people in this room are looking for wrap buyers? Like, you have things already at your fingertips that can be so beneficial for someone. It's just, in this business, what you're doing, think of it as like puzzle pieces. You are one puzzle piece, and you're looking for the other puzzle piece to connect. And that's how we get paid, is when those connections are made.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Damon, did you want to wrap this thing up, man? Or
Damon, you're on mute.
And I was sitting there talking, guys, and I was on mute. So, yeah, Heath, I can actually, we'll wrap this thing up, and then I can actually take it a step further for you. So, being that you're in the mortgage industry, one of these things that PACE is offering now with alpha funding, what people don't want to call that is that's actually mortgage brokering, right? What he is offering, what they are offering, is a 1099 mortgage brokering, right? And so, you're basically bringing a buyer a qualified deal over to alpha so that they will fund the deal, right?
Right.
And I've actually, that maybe the real estate agent side of me coming out, right, is that you got to be really careful when you're brokering deals, because you start to take on some additional responsibility that you didn't have to have before. When you're just connecting, it's one thing, but when you actually start brokering out deals, you better make sure that they're qualified, and you better make sure that that deal is done the right way, because you can definitely have some responsibility come back upon you. So I think, right, that you're an apt candidate for something like that, where not only does the Gator lending make sense for you, but that whole alpha funding thing that he's offering, I think that makes a ton of sense, right? You know how to bring qualified deals. One of the other things I think that's really good for you is that you offer a lot of value for people in terms of underwriting, right? A mortgage broker does know how to underwrite a deal to find out whether it is a valid fix and flip or not, right? You can help people to find out if the cash flow is there, right? So these are all places, man, where you bring value.
Awesome.
Does that help?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome, man. Carolina, thank you. As I state at the end of all of these, time is the most precious thing that we have. And I am so very appreciative of people that offer up their time to come and give it to us and talk with other people. We truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for everybody that came by, guys, you can see right here on Carolina's screen. You can email Carolina. You can go and join her Instagram, DM her there. I am sure she would be happy to help you in any shape, form, or fashion that she could. So reach out to her on social media. And as always, please, guys, go reach out to our social media. Go to YouTube, subscribe, like it Facebook, like it Instagram. It helps us to grow and it helps us to bring more guests. And when I tell you we've got some guests coming, we've got some very, very interesting guests coming that I think everybody's really going to enjoy. One of those, maybe should I give up the surprise or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe should I hold on to it? I don't know. Yeah, we've got a great guy in the multifamily space that has dedicated in September, Boris Sanchez, to come on. We are looking forward to that. He is an absolutely amazing guy in the real estate industry. He's here in Houston, about 37-ish years old, I think, but is roughly at $1 billion in real estate, right? Yeah, he's an absolute beast in the real estate industry, and he's just kind of an unknown guy, just here in Houston, right? So, anyways, guys, as always, we love you, we appreciate you. Please go like and subscribe; it helps us, and we appreciate you all for coming. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.
Thanks, Carolina.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.